Welcome to The Prenup, the wedding obsessed podcast designed to help you plan your dream day. I'm your host, Adriana, and each week I'm joined by the industry's top professionals, celebs, influencers, and friends who are sharing their best tips, advice, and mistakes they've made so you don't have to. The Prenup is a Love Stories TV podcast. This episode is brought to you by BriteCo. From your engagement ring to your wedding day, protect your most cherished memories with BriteCo. Visit brite.co/prenup for a fast, free quote today and unlock peace of mind knowing you're covered. The very first step in planning your wedding, before budgeting, before making a guest list, ideally even before proposing, you absolutely must get your rings insured. We have questions, and our guest today, Dustin Lemick, the founder and CEO of BriteCo, has answers. Not only is BriteCo the leading jewelry insurance company, but now your destination for wedding insurance, which I have a lot of questions about. And Dustin, I'm so excited to talk to you. Welcome to The Prenup.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you are kind of the best friend to all the girls and guys with shiny new rings on their fingers. We had engagement season just come with the holidays. So we are definitely going to be seeking some advice from you today.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we are the experts in all things jewelry insurance, watch insurance, and wedding insurance as well.
Yes, so it's such a hot topic. It's so important. And what I want to start with is what got you guys kind of started, which is jewelry insurance. And then I definitely want to get into wedding insurance because it's become so much more important. And I'm really excited that you guys now have a platform for this. But I often preach jewelry insurance, you must have it. I'm such a nervine, and I'm always saying, the first thing you have to do, don't do anything until your jewelry's insured. But from the actual expert, can you tell us when you should actually get your rings insured?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so it is really important to have coverage for jewelry insurance, engagement rings, wedding bands, etc. It's a big purchase, so it's a really large purchase for folks. Sometimes it's really like in the top three purchases for people at that point in their life, the engagement ring. Think of like a car, a ring, and then a house. So it's a really expensive purchase, and it's a little bit of a blind purchase, and there's lots of emotion associated with it, right? So um, those are all reasons why you really do want coverage for it. And I always tell folks, I'm like, how painful would it be to come out of pocket to replace that 2 carat, 3 carat diamond, whatever it is? And most folks, almost everybody, is like, yeah, that would be really painful. And the other thing I always like to mention is like the cost. It's like 0.5% to 1.5% of the total value. And it's like, that is kind of, in my opinion, a no brainer.
Absolutely, yeah. It's such a huge cost. And to your point, a, a lot of times, at least on a first marriage, people are young when they're getting engaged, and you're right. It's kind of this big first purchase that they're having. So for that to come out of pocket, I have a funny story that I'll tell you later. It's actually horrifying and a really good reason to get insurance. But yeah, so just you said about 1% of the total purchase is.
At BriteCo, it's actually 0.5% to
0.5%.
1.5%. Yeah.
Wow.
And so like for a $10,000 ring, you could be paying like $50 a year. Like that is super reasonable.
Yeah.
And so like I said before, it's in my opinion, it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer for sure. So this is kind of off the topic, but because you're a third generation jeweler, right?
Yeah, I grew up in the jewelry industry, and actually the impetus for starting BriteCo started with working in the industry and selling engagement rings. And I got the question all the time from customers who were like, where do I get this insured? How do I get this insured, etc. And the answers were, and the products that were on the market were just not what I thought were good or comprehensive and tough to purchase. Like it was like a long purchasing process. And I was like, we're digitally native now. Why are we still doing these things that don't make sense, that are taking a really long time? So that's sort of why we built was one of the reasons why we built BriteCo, to offer better coverage, streamlined it, and we kind of consider ourselves a digital insurance company. So you can go buy a policy from us in 2 minutes online. It's like a really easy, streamlined process.
It's actually perfect. And I want to talk to you about what's actually covered because I think that's very important to people. But
Sure,
before I get there, I did have one quick question for you. It's actually
sure.
technically two questions. One, as a jeweler, what are your thoughts on a lab grown diamond? And two, can lab growns be insured the same way natural diamonds are?
Very good question. Very hot topic in the industry. To the second question, yes, they can definitely be insured in the same exact way a natural diamond would be insured.
Okay.
Um, there is a lot of polarization around lab grounds. This is my thought on it. So the wholesale value and the values of lab grown diamonds have been dramatically decreasing. So natural diamonds are known to sort of hold value over the course of time or increase in value over the course of time. We're seeing sort of the opposite trend with lab growns where they're decreasing significantly. Now you can also buy them a lot less expensive. So if you're looking for, hey, I just want to spend X amount of dollars and I want to get the biggest thing or the best quality like that I can for that value, then I would say, okay, you should be looking at lab grown. But if you're really like trying to make an investment, let's just say, then I usually would skew a little bit more towards natural.
Okay, makes sense. But regardless, because sometimes if you're buying a natural that's let's say 20,000, you might be able to get a lab grown for 6,000. But
Yep.
that's still not nothing to people, and it's really worth it to insure, I believe.
Well, and we also see it from the insurance side. So, when somebody goes and buys a lab grown for, call it 10 grand, just making up a number,
Sure.
and then they lose that and they realize, oh my God, it's only worth how much? It's only worth three grand. Like those are like the kind of discrepancies that we're seeing, and it's not great.
That's
So
tough.
it's tough. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for answering that for me.
Sure, of course.
So, in terms of the jewelry insurance, what is actually covered in a policy?
So it depends on what insurance company you go with. I'll talk about our insurance, but also talk at large, sort of what you want to look for. Um, Loss is covered typically, theft, damage, mysterious disappearance, which is the big one. That's the one that somebody like your homeowners most likely will not cover. What mysterious disappearance coverage is you have lost it, but you don't really know how. And it happens a lot. So think about, hey, it was on my finger this morning when I woke up and I was going to the gym and I was running errands and it's gone. I don't know what happened. Nobody stole it from me. Like, I don't believe there was theft involved, and it just kind of mysteriously disappeared. So that is a really important coverage. We cover all of those things. So loss, theft, damage, mysterious disappearance.
It's so good to know, especially coming from someone who is notoriously like, I lose everything. Where are my keys? Where are my phone? I can't believe I haven't lost my rings yet. It's actually amazing. But I do have insurance, thank God, if I do.
Good,
And that
good.
was something that it was the first thing my husband did. He was like, "You're not wearing that until it's insured. You
Yep.
can't." And I, even though I am someone who loses things, it's so delicate. It's your prized possession when you get it. It's
Yep.
like
Yep.
and you're wearing it. Like it's such a different type of thing than like your car or your house, but you should be protecting it in the same way you would those things because it's such a huge expense and it's so important and sentimental.
Yeah, and then think about losing that and not having coverage. Like, think about how you'd feel. I mean, it would not be a fun thing. Like, it's
Sick,
not anyways, right?
sick to your
But
stomach.
you would not. And thankfully, like, I feel pretty blessed to be in the business of being able to step in and help somebody in that moment when they're and we see, it's very, like you said, very emotionally charged.
Oh my
So
gosh,
we
yeah.
get folks that are putting in claims and calling and be like, oh my God, and they're super upset. And we're like, it's fine. You're covered. We've got you. We will walk you through this. We will help you. And that's our job, is to just create like a delightful experience at a moment that a customer like really, really needs us.
Yes, because it is, I can only imagine it's so gut wrenching. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a couple years ago, I had a girlfriend, her fiance, sweetest guy, we all loved him. He proposed to her, and she was so happy. We were down at the beach, and he had a big celebration after. So she brought it with her, 'cause she was like, I want to show everyone. But we're there, we're having some drinks, and it's a little bit windy. She's like, I don't want like sand getting in it. I just don't want it damaged. I'm gonna put it away. So the end of the day comes, and we're cleaning everything up, the drinks, the food, the chairs. And she goes in her bag, the ring's not there, no ring. She's like, what? And it was just us. It was all friends. And it's kind of that mysterious disappearance thing that you're talking about. And we're like, where could this be? We're digging through sand, everything. The ring wasn't insured, and we never found it.
I've heard a lot of stories like that. Like, I mean, a lot of times right around the proposal, water related events, we've had tons of we're on the boat and,
The
you
boats.
know, gone, goes flying into the ocean, never to be seen again.
Yes.
We've had literally we've had dog eating claims where they've recovered it. That was one of my favorites. The dog ate a very expensive ring too. And they recovered it.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're concerned about the health of the dog, of course, and then it's like, oh my God. So the dog had to, I guess, get it
Yeah.
down.
And they were monitoring the dog pretty much 24/7.
Yeah, I guess at that point you would have to. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so not worth it. You want it to be one of those things where, like, God forbid there is a situation for any reason this thing disappears or is not in your sight. You have comfort, like you can regain that.
Yeah. And for a reasonable cost, it's like, why? Like, why not?
Why
Like,
not?
yeah,
It's a
totally.
no-brainer. So another question for you, what is the most common reason that you see for insurance claims?
It definitely mysterious disappearance.
Mysterious disappearance?
What we've talked about. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
granted, we certainly have seen a large uptick in theft, especially urban cities, and this is super unfortunate. But we do see it a lot and that's pretty jarring for folks, breaking into homes. I hate to say it, but like sometimes just like walking on the street in New York City or we're in Chicago, um, things happen.
Yeah.
Like things happen and you don't. So really, what our insurance is for that extra peace of mind, right? So
Sure.
when something does happen, I mean, there's certain things that you're upset about, no question, but like that shouldn't be one of them, right? That
No.
like all of a sudden you're out of pocket for all this money. So mysterious disappearance, theft. We see a lot of damage claims too. Believe it or not, diamonds can get damaged. They can chip. That's actually more common than you'd think.
Yeah, we're always
Um,
told that diamonds are indestructible and they're like the hardest thing on earth. But if you're rough with it, if you're rough with anything, you can destroy it.
there's a difference between hardness and toughness, and diamonds are the hardest things on the planet, but they're not the toughest things. So they could actually, we see chips all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Makes total sense. All right. So, equally as important as jewelry insurance to me is wedding insurance. And BriteCo now offers a couple different kinds. So, you guys offer liability and cancellation, both very hot topics. I want to get into liability first because I think it's something that people don't know as much about. And
Yeah.
I'm a wedding planner. I'm seeing so many more venues require wedding insurance now. So,
Yeah.
can you talk to us a little bit about liability insurance for the couple, what it is, what they expect?
Yeah, of course. And you're totally right. There is a little bit of a lack of transparency. Folks don't actually know what this is. So a lot of people haven't even heard of it before.
Mm-hmm.
So wedding liability product covers general liability, which I'll talk about, and broad property damage. So I'll give you an example. For general liability, let's just say, and by the way, it'll cover the host and the honorees, the wedding couple. It also is coverage for folks that are at the event. So think about your father-in-law has a friend who has too much to drink and is on the dance floor and slips and falls and hurts himself. And then all of a sudden he's blaming you guys. There was water on the dance floor. There was this, whatever. And he is demanding a lawsuit, whatever. He's going down that path and making demands and saying you're responsible.
Yes.
That is why you would want, that is an example of liability risk. And that's where our insurance would step in and say, we would cover the couple or the host for those types of liabilities, lawsuits, demands, things like that. The property piece of it is, this is one of my favorite examples, was one of our partners told us this story, and they had somebody that had a bridesmaid who was in the bathroom, and she was sitting on the bathroom sink pedestal doing her makeup, and the sink pedestal broke and it started flooding. And that is actually was a lot of damage. So something you don't budget for is that, examples like that. And there's a lot of different things that could arise that are like that. So those are examples, but it ultimately will cover you for general liability that you might not think about, and property damage, also like artwork and rugs and things like that.
It's interesting that you mentioned maybe a guest with alcohol consumption and them getting injured because of that, or damage to the property because of that, because that was something that I wanted to ask you about. When I was getting married, that was the scariest thought to me about a wedding. I was like, is someone going to drink, either get in the car or fall outside? And it's funny, with my clients, we don't talk about it. I don't know if they talk about it separately without me, and if they worry about it, but it doesn't come up a lot. But I remember when I was getting married, that was really on my mind. I was like, am I going to get sued because someone drinks a lot? And it's interesting to hear you say that is an actual possibility, because everyone told me I was crazy and the venue has protection for those kinds of things, but that's not necessarily the case.
No, I mean, the venue would, in like the example I gave, the venue will hold you responsible. They just will. And you are most likely liable too. And, we all know those people that are invited to weddings that you're like, oh, please behave, like whatever. There's a lot of partying going
We
on
all
and
have
like all
that
that stuff.
guest. Yeah.
Yeah, we all know those folks. And so it's really, it's, again, like I said with the jewelry, it's very similar in terms of like, it's peace of mind. It's like, you don't want to worry about, in the worst case event, all of a sudden, oh, I just threw this really expensive party and I just had this amazing wedding, but by the way, I also owe another $20,000 or $30,000 because of something that happened. It's like, come on, no.
Sick, yeah.
Yeah.
And especially when it's something that it's supposed to be the best day of your life. It's celebratory. You have all the people you love in a room. One, that happening, like any kind of injury or damage, it's just so disheartening. It kind of like taints the day. And then it's going to taint like the next few years of you having to pay off that suit or whatever it is without that insurance.
Exactly right.
So let me play devil's advocate for 2 seconds.
Sure.
Our vendors, if anyone's planning a wedding and they're in the thick of it, their wedding soon, they know that vendors need certificates of insurance and liability insurance. So a big question that couples might be having is, if my vendors and my venue have the insurance, why do I have to have it also?
So the vendors protect just that. They protect themselves. And they will also protect the venue a little bit, but they don't protect you. They don't protect the wedding couple. And so for the liability piece, I mean, both examples that I gave, there's no vendor insurance that covers those situations. So for the liability piece, and for the property damage piece, so for wedding liability, like, vendor insurance doesn't cover any of that. So that's why you would need it to cover yourself and to cover the people that your invitees. For the cancellation piece, well, we can get to that, but there's a whole host of reasons in terms of cancellation why you want it, deposits being lost, like all those kinds of things.
Sure. Yeah, that's a hot one. I wanna get to that, but before I do, I just have a couple more questions about the liability.
Yeah, of course.
So let's say you're doing a destination wedding. a lot of times you're going to be having a multi-day celebration. You have the welcome party and the brunch and all those things. Do we need to have insurance for all of those events?
So at BriteCo, we really wanted to reimagine this coverage and provide like a state-of-the-art insurance product. Um, and one of the things that was really important to us is, and some other folks offer this as well, not everybody though. We wanted to make sure the whole event was covered. And when we say the whole event, I mean the ceremony, the reception, the post-wedding brunch, the rehearsal dinner, setup and breakdown. People actually get hurt during setup and breakdown more than you'd even think.
Oh yeah, I've been hurt.
A lot of people do. I mean, it's kind of wild to understand. I mean, because when I got married, I thought a little bit, but not. I didn't have the awareness that I have now, being on the other side of it.
Sure.
Now I'm like super aware of like, oh my God, all this stuff could happen. So it covers all four of those events over a 5-day span.
Oh, wow.
So it's really broad. Yeah. So like if you had somebody that got hurt at the rehearsal dinner, that would be covered.
That's huge. That's huge. And it's really, we're talking about no-brainers when we talk about the jewelry insurance, but same thing for this. Like, it's the same category of celebration. Yes, it's a different place and maybe less people, but the same things, God forbid, could happen.
Yeah. And guess what? It's $120. Like, it's like, what?
Again, what are we doing?
Yeah.
There's a joke that I always make, and I say every bride gets to a point in the wedding where they say, all right, my budget was this, but we've already spent this. What's another this? $120. I don't care what your wedding budget is. If it's $1,000, that's something that is so worth it.
It should be a line item. It 100% should be a line item.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we were talking about damages a little bit. And a couple months ago, I had someone on the podcast. Her name's Veronica Sligagian, and she has a company called Pawfect for You. She actually does full pet coordination for weddings. That's her bread and butter. And I recommend that to anyone if you are going to have a pet involved. I know that's like a huge thing for people. They want their pet to be a ring bearer or a best man or whatever it is. But with having a pet on site, there are some things that could happen. So in terms of wedding insurance, liability insurance, would damage or injury because of a pet be covered under something like that?
So most policies, no.
Okay.
But going back to what I was saying before is like we really wanted to reimagine and provide modern coverage. And I believe we're the only ones that cover this as well, along with a couple other coverages, but we do cover pets because, like you said, it's such a huge growing trend. And there's definitely issues that could happen. The pet has an accident on the rug or on a couch, or the pet gets really nervous and starts chewing on something like,
right.
Or hopefully this doesn't happen, but in an unfortunate event where the pet bites somebody or something like that. Yes, we would cover that.
Okay, good to know. So there are different bases and tiers of what you can have covered, as I understand it.
Yes, but that would be covered in our basic package.
Okay, great to know. Okay, let's talk about protecting life's most meaningful moments. Whether it's your engagement ring or your wedding day, BriteCo has you covered with fast, easy, and affordable insurance. BriteCo is the modern insurance provider for your modern milestones. For jewelry, they offer worldwide coverage, no deductibles, full protection for loss, theft, or even mysterious disappearance, all starting at just $5 a month. Plus, claims are handled quickly with 125% replacement value through your trusted jeweler. Planning your wedding? BriteCo offers liability and cancellation coverage tailored to your big day. With flexible prices to match your wedding budget, from meeting venue liability requirements to vendor issues to natural disasters, they've got your back with a simple online process. Visit brite.co/prenup for a fast, free quote today and unlock peace of mind knowing you're covered. Trust BriteCo for your insurance needs. So, if someone is seeking out wedding insurance and they're not really sure what they should do, and they're on BriteCo and they're kind of perusing, what would you recommend to them? Is there someone that they can get in touch with or an FAQ that they can kind of go to that's going to seem best for them?
Yeah, on our website, I mean, first of all, we like to give right up front a ton of value information in terms of coverage and what the coverage means. So there's a lot there. There's also, yes, an FAQ as well. We're big on like just chat features. And so we have the little chat bubble in the bottom right. We actually have we have humans that will respond to you. And you can ask questions there as well. So um, definitely look on our website, look at our FAQs, or just chat with us if you have questions.
Amazing. Okay, next thing I want to get to is cancellation, because this is a hot
Yep.
topic.
Yep.
God forbid you need this. Anyone listening, you're not going to need it, but I mean, you're almost a fool to not have an insurance policy. I'm sorry. I don't want to be mean, but you must have it. So, for cancellation, let's say for whatever reason, we have to cancel the wedding. What does that look like in an insurance policy?
Yeah, well, this started getting a lot of attention, national attention, when COVID hit.
Okay.
There obviously we all know like there were an amazing number of events and weddings that were canceled during COVID. Um, so one of the things that we actually cover COVID, during that time, nobody was covering COVID. So what it looks like is basically, and there's a bunch of different reasons why you would need to cancel or postpone too, by the way. We'll cover postponement as well.
Yeah.
Uh, um, Essentially, let's just say weather. Like weather events are like one of the largest reasons that the coverage would be triggered. I mean, we're seeing lots of crazy weather events right now, and it's seemingly every single year there's some weather events, unexpected weather events. So what would happen is we would work with you in terms of rescheduling the event, if working with the venue, working with the vendors, helping recover deposits or cover the deposits if you needed to put down new deposits, all of those financial things as well, which we would cover. We start working with you to help there, depending on the situation.
Makes sense. So you brought up weather, and I'm just thinking in terms of like, living somewhere in hurricane season or, God forbid, somewhere like LA where the wildfires are really prominent. And I'm thinking about those people and the events that have been canceled there. So would weather play a factor into the price of a cancellation policy depending on where you live?
No, so that was one of the other things that we did is we didn't make it location specific. So really anywhere in the US, you'll get the same price.
That's great.
We didn't we wanted to offer, and we didn't feel good about large upcharges for certain areas. So it was important to us to try to keep the price consistent, and that's what we did.
That's awesome. That's so huge, and again, just such peace of mind for couples to.
Yeah, and again, like sometimes it's not a full weather event that cancels the whole wedding, and you need to reschedule the entire wedding.
Right.
Sometimes it's, hey, a vendor didn't show up, or the venue. I was just reading an article the other day about a venue, a nice venue. It was sort of like a countryside type of state in, I think it was New York, right outside of New York. They went out of business. The venue went out of business, and like abruptly, there was issues with. They went basically bankrupt, and they overnight canceled every event and wedding that was being held there, including ones that were happening like in a week.
Oh my God.
So that is where cancellation coverage would be immensely helpful. We would step in, we would help you find a new venue, we would help cover costs, things like that.
Yeah, I just heard from a bride, and it wasn't for her wedding, it was for her shower, and the shower was at a restaurant, and the restaurant abruptly closed, and they can't get in touch with them, they can't get their deposits back, and it's like, it's one of those things where, yeah, we want to move on and plan those things, but like, are we going to get our deposit back? You're just kind of juggling at that point.
You're in limbo, right? And that happens with vendors, that happens with venues, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real thing. And um, that's where insurance coverage helps.
Yeah, we saw it so much, to your point. At the time of COVID, I was with a venue, I was working for a venue, and it was just this complete unknown. And you're right, that is when people started asking, like, oh, what about insurance? Like, should I get an insurance policy? And now it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, we are getting insurance. I think we've all been tainted by COVID in so many different ways, but this was definitely a big one for anyone getting married, because we saw that anything could happen, and your venue could either just shut down or the world could just shut down. And then what do you do?
Yeah, and people were out a lot of money.
Oh, a
Like
lot.
a lot of money. Like you have to cancel your entire event and you're 3 weeks away.
No,
Like,
we don't want
no,
that. We don't want that.
that
And
that sucks.
it's beyond
Yeah.
sucks. So Dustin, let's talk money, because I think a reservation for people is, we're spending all this money. Sometimes they're trying to cut corners in certain things in weddings because, to your point, we're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So you said that a wedding policy might start around 120. What's that range look like?
So the liability policy is 100, is right about $120.
Okay.
The cancellation policy for like an average wedding, call it a $30,000 or $35,000 wedding,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is the average cost in the United States. You're looking at like $300. And then we also offer for like an extra like 1 to 2%. I think we're the only ones that offer this as well. Cancel for any reason,
Oh, wow.
which is
That's pretty unheard
exactly,
of.
it's unheard of. But we again looked at the market and wanted to stay on with some trends and provide modern coverage. Um, some people get cold feet. Some people decide it's just not the right time. Some people are like, we're not breaking up,
Yeah.
we're staying together. We just need another year.
Yeah.
So those are things. So, and then they cancel their wedding and they're out a bunch of money. But we would cancel for any reason covers all that.
For sure. It's funny you brought that up, because I know a couple, and they're actually two couples recently that this happened, but really great people. They had, I think it was a September 2023 wedding planned. And just like you're saying, it was like we're not ready yet, but they just got married this past January. But all those deposits, everything, they were out. They were out of that. And it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, but back to your point, these should be, at least in my opinion, I'm super biased, but they should be like no-brainer line items. They're just, you're getting a lot of value out of it. That's the whole thing. Like, hopefully you never have to use it.
Yeah.
That's the hope, obviously, but what's the peace of mind worth? Is it worth $120? Is it worth $300 for cancellation? Like,
Oh, yeah.
mine is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when we're not in like a time of COVID, maybe it's not on people's mind as much, but when I was getting married, we were in this limbo period of, it was 2021. So a couple weeks before my wedding, everything was shut down, and a couple weeks after it was too, in Philadelphia. And my husband and I just kept looking at each other like, this might not happen. This really just might not happen. And had we had wedding insurance, it wouldn't have been this. There's enough to worry about when you're planning your wedding. There's so many things, so many little details and things that pop out at you at the end. You don't want to worry about, oh, are we actually going to even be able to have this thing?
Right.
Because we're in a weird state of the world. I don't know if you noticed, but
I did. And that's like, it's all about protecting, right? And we are in a weird state, and it's just like, one of my big takeaways is just like there's a lot of unknowns, right? Like,
yeah.
so protect against the unknown.
Yes, so important. So question for you about purchasing. Let's say mom or dad wants to gift you an insurance policy. Is that permissible?
100% happens all the time, actually.
Okay, great. So anyone can purchase a policy on behalf of someone else.
Yep.
Okay, amazing. Can you give us any examples or scenarios where cancellation insurance or liability insurance was just like lifesaver for a couple?
The biggest is weather. There's a lot of examples of a horrific weather event. A hurricane is usually a big one because it's during that season, and events get canceled. And then this policy coverage kicks in and comes in and does that. I mean, helps you recoup everything, like we said. That would be the biggest. Also, illness. So another one is when folks get sick. I mean, this happens. So, and it's not just the bride or groom or the wedding couple. It could also cover like you absolutely needed to have your mother at your wedding, like, and
Yes.
she got ill and you needed to postpone, not cancel. You're just postponing it 2 weeks or whatever it is.
Right.
This would cover that. And so, I mean, your mom got sick, you needed to postpone, and this would step in and help in that situation. So those would be kind of, when you think of cancellation or postponement, those are kind of the things that come up.
Yeah, I can't tell you the amount of couples, sadly so, that their parents, like, they maybe had to go to the hospital and do their first dance with them before the wedding, or just make these really heartbreaking arrangements because mom or dad couldn't be there, and they would have given anything to have them there. And if they had that option, it would be a no-brainer.
And it's not, then it doesn't become a financial conversation, right? It doesn't become a, hey, if we just wait a couple weeks, mom will be able to will be able to come, but we're going to lose $30,000. It's
Yes.
that you remove the financial part of that conversation, which makes it so much better and
For
easier.
sure. And in a lot of scenarios, maybe parents are contributing a certain portion and they don't want either their kids or themselves to lose out on that money because of a situation that they're in. So it just, again, all of these things that could become really big stressors on top of what you already have to do can be eliminated.
Yeah, because like you pointed out, I mean, it's stressful enough, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was perusing your site and you guys have something, you have a combined service. So combined wedding and event insurance. What is that? How do you explain that to couples?
So pretty simple. Basically, if you buy both, we offer a package discount. So we'll give you 10% off if you buy the liability and the cancellation. One of the reasons why we offer that is because we believe it's really important to have both.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the venue will actually require you to purchase the liability.
Yes.
They don't require you to purchase the cancellation because
It doesn't
they've got
behoove
their
them.
deposits.
Yeah.
That right. It doesn't right. But the liability will make sure that if something happens, they get paid. So the venues will require a lot of times that liability, but we do really believe it's important to have both. So that's why one of the reasons we offer a discount when you buy both. So you can get 10% off if you buy both together.
Really smart. Okay. And then when should couples be purchasing these policies?
So I believe like when venues require it, they require you to purchase it 30 or 60 days in advance of the event.
Okay.
And a lot of venues won't let you step on property for the event without having it. But we always recommend buying it as soon as you've signed the contract with your venue, just because it's another relatively easy thing to just check off and not worry about. I mean, we've had folks that ended up buying it same day. Well, a lot of folks they're scrambling, they're doing things, and they realize, oh my God, I didn't buy this.
Yeah.
So we usually, I mean, I'm a planner, like, well, we like to do things in advance. So I always recommend do it as soon as you can, but certainly 30 to 60 days before the event takes place.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, especially for couples who are listening who are maybe new to the prenup and they're just starting to look at venues and they haven't signed their venue contract yet. First of all, read your contracts. That's like, come on, you
Yes.
must
Yes.
read every line, hire an
Totally.
attorney to look over it. But a lot of times in there, it will, as you said, require liability insurance. But they don't make you present it at that moment. It's just the understanding that before your wedding, you're going to need this. So put it on your calendar, like purchase it then. Can you purchase it that early once you've signed your contract with
Yeah.
your venue? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good to know. Awesome. We're going to do one more thing today, Dustin. We do every week a session called premarital counseling. And one of our listeners will write in. They have a question or a concern, and we try to guide them through that. Are you willing to help us today?
Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. So this one says, SOS, my wedding is 3 weeks away and the florist went out of business. We can't get in touch with anyone. Have already paid in full and need to find a replacement ASAP. Will my insurance cover this? What should I do now?
Yeah, I mean, your insurance will if you have cancellation or postponement coverage, 100% will cover it.
Okay.
I would contact your insurance company right away and let them know, and they will help guide you through. If you don't already have a florist in mind or somebody else that you want to use, they'll help you. They should help you find options.
Yeah.
Also, they will cover costs. So they will also cover the costs of finding the new florist or new deposit, whatever you need to put down. So they'll help in two ways, right? They'll help with the financial piece like we talked about, but they'll also, we would help source if you needed help sourcing.
That is so amazing. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. You know, when you have damage to your car or something, when you go through the insurance policy, they'll tell you where you can go. But I didn't think of it through weddings. I'm just only thinking of it through like pure insurance coverage. But yeah, from a planner's perspective, it's such a scary thing because it's like who's still available and who can do that similar work. But to be able to have someone not only say, yeah, you're covered, you're good, and we also are going to help you find someone else that's like, oh, okay.
To be clear, that's what we do at BriteCo. I don't know if every insurance company would do it. Right. We would step in to help there. I mean, that's our ethos. But
which if you're not getting your insurance through BriteCo, what are you doing? Come on.
Amen.
Well, Dustin, this was so great and so helpful. Where can all of our listeners find BriteCo and all of the things?
Yeah, they could just on our website, brite.co, brite.co. We have tons of information and resources for both jewelry insurance and wedding insurance as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it so much. I know all of our listeners do too.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Dustin.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning into The Prenup. This episode is brought to you by BriteCo. From your engagement ring to your wedding day, protect your most cherished memories with BriteCo. Visit brite.co/prenup for a fast, free quote today and unlock peace of mind knowing you're covered. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform or on the Love Stories TV YouTube channel. Follow at @the_pre_nup and at Love Stories TV on Instagram for more. Have feedback or suggestions for the next episode? Feel free to reach out to us at podcasts@lovestoriestv.com.